All right, guys. As far as the injuries, everything is the same as what I talked to you guys about. There's semantics in terms of what will show up on the injury report where, some of these guys will be full participants, but they'll be listed as doubtful for the game. Work with the league in terms of exactly the best way to do that. And the reason you say that is if for whatever reason somebody were to get sick or something unforeseen happens and to be able to get to that 48. But there's nothing that has changed from earlier on in the week. Tyler Higbee and Joe Noteboom, they'll be listed as doubtful, but they'll be out for the game. And then the other guys that I spoke with you guys about, Matthew Stafford, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, and Ernest Jones, will be listed as doubtful, but they're not going to play unless, like I said, something unforeseen ends up occurring.
How has Brett come back in and approached this week?
He's been great. It was really windy yesterday. Those are not ideal situations to be able to kick in, and I thought he was really smooth with the operation. I thought he did a good job earlier on. When you go back and you look at it, Jordan, I thought there was a lot of situations, if I'm being honest with myself, that you're saying those are tough spots to put anybody in with the amount of attempts from 50 plus. And you look at just the landscape of the league, even from the guys that have been doing it as well as anybody, all time or over the course of their careers as of late. And so I think you have to be mindful of that. He's had some big time game experience. And so I was pleased with the way Brett came back in.
Sean, Carson obviously is probably the biggest name as far as opportunities for Sunday, but who else besides him could get a chance to get more snaps or chances to show what they can do?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think when you look at it, I think, Carson obviously get to play behind our offensive line, and then I think it'll offer an opportunity for those running backs to get more chances than what they would otherwise if Kyron was going. So with Ronnie, with Royce, and with Zach Evans, you'll see all three of those guys. It'll also offer an opportunity for our tight ends, with Higbee being out. Okay, let's see how Davis Allen continues to do. He did a great job against Baltimore, playing a lot of snaps. Bryson Hopkins, you'll get a chance to see him. And then from the receiver position, you know that Puka and Demarcus Robinson will get Tutu, more opportunities. And then we added Tyler Johnson to the roster and Ben Skoranek and Austin Trammell. So I know I just named about everybody that'll be active for you, but those guys, and then really defensively, more opportunities for those inside linebackers, and then Ernest Brown will get a chance to be up and active when he was not last week with Aaron being down.
Sean, what's it been like working with Coach Mike Munchak this season?
He's been awesome. I mean, you talk about a guy with an amazing amount of wisdom, humility. He's got just such a great way about him. He's got such a calming presence, but man, is there a lot of wisdom, both as a player and as a coach. He's done a great job of being able to work in coordination with Ryan Wendell, Zach Cromer, Nick Jones. Those guys love him. He's just kind of got that steadying way about himself that, I love being able to spend a little bit of time with him, get his perspective. He has head coaching experience, and so there's a lot of different things that he's just a great sounding board for us, and he's a stud, and we love having him around.
Did you have a relationship with him before this started?
I really didn't. I had talked to him about potentially, okay, what are you really looking for? He has a daughter that lives out here, so he travels back and forth between here and Denver. Do you want to get back into coaching? What kind of situation is ideal? And so we kind of decided on this, and I had heard so many. I don't think you can find anybody that'll say anything negative about him other than what an amazing coach, amazing person, amazing player that he was, and just how he injects, great stuff into a building. And Dave Ragone is a close friend of mine who's the Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator. He and Coach Munchak have a great relationship, and he actually was the first one to connect us. And so I'm grateful that he did, and he's been a tremendous asset to us this year.
On Monday, you were joking about how patience is not your strength.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, how did you grow that patience, and how did you work on that?
I mean, I think I would say hopefully there's a little bit more awareness in terms of, when you start to feel certain things, you're saying, all right, well, this doesn't help. You want to be, you want to affect things positively, whether it's situations or people you're around. And you always want to ask yourself, okay, this might be my natural reaction, but is this really what you want to do in terms of the power of the influence that you can have? And so I think the most important thing is you're around a lot of people that set great examples where you don't want to let them down and you want to do it right for them. And when you have that, that's an easy checks and balances, but it's like anything else. You just continue to try to mature as a person. I'm not going to pretend to be perfect by any stretch, but there's been maybe some improvements there.
And then when you went into this offseason, I don't know if you viewed it as kind of a fresh start, but as you kind of built this team up, the way you, I guess, onboarded, hired new coaches, that kind of stuff, what was your goal?
I think in a lot of instances it was more of like resetting the foundational things that we know to be true, getting back to some of those values and principles, making sure that your onboarding process, whether it be with players, coaches, is sound and in alignment with everything that you want to preach. And you really go back and you go back to everything and you really reflect on it. But sometimes as you accumulate experience, you can get away from some of the foundational stuff that you're like, this is exactly why you love doing it. These were the things that will still hold true to be consistent, to try to, optimize the environment that you're operating with and the people that you're doing it with. And so that was what we did. Everything starts and ends with people. And I think that's the key thing is there was a very specific and a strategic onboarding process, whether that be with coaches or the players that we identified that we wanted to bring in. And I think it's been a really fun journey. And, all the different things that we've worked through have made it all the more sweet. And you're just continuing to gain perspective. But I love working with this team.
And then was there one moment, maybe last season, where you realized like something has to change?
I would say there was a pivot going towards the end of the season, when we were getting ready to play Seattle the second time, where, you're saying, okay, hey, what kind of leader do you want to be? What kind of things are you letting fall by the wayside? And you just say, all right, let's at least start to try to make sure that these standards, the culture, and the way that you want to operate, are more in alignment with the person that you want to be. But it doesn't mean that it was easy. But I thought there was a better approach. Was it perfect? No, it never is perfect, but I thought that at least allowed us, that allowed me. I thought our guys last year did a great job of battling through a really tough situation. I can only speak on, I wasn't proud of the leader that I was throughout in terms of what they deserved. And I think there was a little bit of a pivot, and then ultimately you want to make sure, hey, you're giving everything that you can to try to influence and affect positive change in everything that you're a part of, while knowing that you're going to make mistakes, but how quickly can you identify it? How can you surround yourself with people that'll tell you, hey, you're messed up here, man? That's a big thing too. In a lot of instances, I still want to be coached. I still need to be coached. And so want to always be open-minded, continuously learning. But I think that game represented a little bit of a pivot, but there was a lot of moments that I reflect upon that I didn't enjoy that and I wasn't proud of it. But man, did we need it. And it was, it was a part of the growth process, and there's going to continue to be different things that we have to navigate through. And I feel like that circumstance and situation will make us more equipped to do it.
And who was that person for you?
Well, my dad, I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot of these coaches. I love the honest feedback that I can have with Les, with Kevin, with Tony. I think it's, even our players, I can't say enough about the relationships that I've established, whether it be with Matthew, Aaron, Cooper. Had such a great conversation with Cooper over the bye. And, I know he cares enough about me to be able to keep it real with me in terms of these are the types of things that I would challenge you on. And it's like, man, I don't want to let you down. And while it's not always sometimes the easiest stuff to hear, you're grateful that you have people that'll keep it real with you. And so there's a lot of people, Sarah, and I think you also have to be willing to listen. And I don't know that, that part of it on my end was, are you really, when you say you want to be helped, are you really, wanting that? And it's been a little bit better, but, it's a never ending journey. And, I'm grateful for all those things to get to this point though.
Couple more, yes. Do you expect to see Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and their kind of defenses?
I don't know. Have you talked to Kyle? Yeah, I think we've got to prepare for it. I'm not exactly sure what their approach will be, but until told otherwise, I think you got to have your mindset of, hey, we're going in, you're playing that way, and then we'll see how the game unfolds.
Think back to some of the ways that you guys installed things, and then some of the drives that you guys organize as a coaching staff for your players to have to go through. I'm talking about the 14, 15 play Brewer drives at the end of training camp. When you look back at that, what did those drives teach you, teach your coaches, and teach your players?
I think problem solving. I think playing. I think what you want to try to do in practice settings, Jordan, is mimic and emulate game-like situations in setting while minimizing the risk of injury. And so, that was the goal, to get the conditioning up. And I think in a lot of instances, your preparation sometimes is sequenced in a manner that's not reflective of how you play the game. And the more that you can do things like that, where first down to second down, okay, you had a penalty that backed you up. Now it's a third down. Now you're into the red area. Okay, now you're in these different situations. And so, it forces guys to think like they have to in a game. And so that's always our goal. I thought, ultimately allowing these guys to be able to problem solve, and it's not exclusive to that. Some of the best things that can occur are, when you go in those unscripted settings and you learn about, all right, what are the different things that we like, or you realize, man, that we thought that was a good idea. It wasn't. But it was also for the conditioning, both mentally and physically, and they did a good job of that. And I think there was a resilience that was developed from that, and I think it has served us well, in spite of how the season has kind of gone relative to the results.
Rob Havenstein,
You're okay, go ahead.
Rob Havenstein mentioned back then, after one of those practices, how those types of drives force people to stay very, very present. And
Yeah.
you almost kind of aren't even thinking at a certain point, you're just playing.
Sure.
Do you think that's a side effect now of how present you're trying to ask your players to be as
I-
what you learned back then?
I think they're the most important ones to be able to tell you that. And if Rob says it, he's as on it as anybody. And so it's a great perspective that he has. And I do think that, you end up getting into that unconscious competence element that you're hunting up, which is the last stage of learning. And so, you're not even thinking about how to be competent at what you're doing. You're just kind of reacting. And if you can do that in these settings where there's so many moving parts, that's a good thing. And guys can play free and just go cut it loose. And then, hey, how do we respond when something doesn't go the way that we want? And so, well said by Rob.
Coach,
Hey.
the maturation process of the O-line and all through the O-line with Matt Stafford, he's come out very complimentary. Can you give us a little bit of an insight as to how they are really, really working behind the scenes as well to keep that momentum now that the playoffs are here?
Yeah, I think, number one, being able to stay healthy has been a key thing. And then I think the guidance, from our veteran players, you look at Coleman Shelton from the inside part of the offensive line. Even, Brian Allen has done a great job leading in his own way. Rob Havenstein at the tackle position. And then you're getting two guards, playing together for the first time with Steve Avila as a rookie. And then you get Kevin Dotson in here from the Steelers, who has good experience, but getting a rapport playing alongside Coleman and Rob has been key and critical. Alaric Jackson has done a really good job. And then Joe Noteboom has really played all over the offensive line. And I look at it as we've got 6 starters that have really done a great job. Ryan Wendell's leadership, we talked about Zach Cromer and Nick Jones and Mike Munchak. And, Mike LaFleur has been an outstanding addition that I can't say enough good things about what a stud he's been, to be able to work in hand with him. But those offensive linemen, they've allowed us to be able to play with an identity where any good offense, I don't think you can just be really good at throwing it or really good at running it. If you want to be able to dictate the terms, you have to be good at both, and it certainly starts with those guys, and we've been able to do that, especially when we've played like we're capable of in the last 6 weeks.
And just to flip that on the other side, to give the kudos out to the defense and the D-line. And of course, we hear the commentators on the national games with Byron Young and the conductor getting his due.
Yeah.
Playing well and just making big plays. Can you talk about them as well?
Yeah, it's been great. It starts with Aaron up front, but I think when you look at those rookies that you mentioned in particular, Kobe Turner, what a great job. What a mature beyond his years rookie, impressive person. He's got 9 sacks, but he's been a really productive player in the run game. So conscientious. Eric Henderson and AC Carter have done a great job with that group, and Aaron's representation of what it looks like to do exactly whatever that guy's doing, let's go ahead and follow that lead. And Kobe is as conscientious as it gets. Byron Young, it's been fun watching his ascension. Joe Caniglio's leadership in that room has been outstanding. And then, Byron is a player that's got so many skills and traits, and he is a tough guy, and he's got real, explosiveness off the edge. He can finish and close, and those guys are going to be really good players for a long time, and we're glad to have him here.
And just to close it out, Coach, Kyron Williams, factoring him in, so
Yeah, stud. He is he's exactly what we're looking for in a Ram. Mentally and physically tough, plays smart, loves to compete. Really productive player. He's got an energy. He's like the Energizer Bunny. When he goes and when he doesn't, we're a totally different offense. And so love what he's done. Really happy for him. All right. Thanks, guys.